Welcome to the 6th episode of Nordic Sports News Podcast, the world's first cross-country ski and biathlon podcast, with daily news from around the globe. Starting today's news with Beijing 2022. Beijing confirms strict closed loop for 2022 Winter Olympics. Participants must be fully vaccinated from COVID-19 and will face expulsion for violating coronavirus restrictions. Chinese organizers have confirmed participants in next year's Winter Olympics will be strictly isolated from the general population and could face expulsion for violating COVID-19 restrictions. Vice Mayor and Beijing 2022 Organizing Committee official Zhang Jiandong told reporters Wednesday that those taking part in the Games beginning February 4 must remain in a closed loop for training, competing, transport, dining and accommodation. A strict Olympic bubble has long been on the books, but Beijing has now made it official in keeping with its zero-tolerance approach to the pandemic. Athletes and other participants will also be tested regularly for the coronavirus before and during the Games. Family, spectators and sponsors from outside the country will not be allowed to attend. All participants of the Games and our Chinese staff and volunteers will implement the same policy, Zhang said. They will be strictly separated from the external society. Those who do not comply with the epidemic prevention regulations may face severe consequences such as warning, temporary or permanent cancellation of registration, temporary or permanent disqualification or expulsion from the competition, and other punishment. All participants must have been fully vaccinated at least 14 days prior to their departure for China. China has enforced strict rules on mask wearing, quarantines and contact tracing that have largely succeeded in eliminating the local transmission of COVID-19. But imported cases and domestic infections continue to appear in daily reports. Indeed, epidemic prevention and control is the biggest challenge for us to host the Winter Olympic Games, Zhang told a news conference. Wednesday marked 100 days until the Beijing Games. Organizers have held test events featuring international athletes at Olympic venues under strict conditions. Japan imposed restrictive rules and an Olympic bubble during the July 23 to August 8 Summer Games in Tokyo, which had been postponed by 12 months because of the pandemic. Keeping on the Olympics topic, we have our second news of the day, with big questions for Beijing 2022 logistics. China, caught up in its zero-COVID strategy, never stops dictating rules, confining and almost indefinitely postponing the instructions and especially the constraints that all foreign teams will have to respect. And all this is not without causing problems for all the Olympic committees, which obviously have to organize themselves upstream, send equipment on site, but also many people to support the athletes. These are my 10th Olympic Games, the third as a logistics specialist, and I have never seen that, explains Remy Sella, of the FFS, on the France Info Sports site. For the moment we know absolutely nothing, whether it is for the transport of people, freight, dates, prices, we cannot get any information. Not easy for a man who has to send 25 tons of material and 210 people to China. On the side of the French Federation of Ice Sports, concern and uncertainty are also present. It's super vague, adds Natalie Pechelot. We are waiting for the directives of the IOC and Beijing 2022 to know under what conditions we will be able to support all our athletes, in a framework more strict than in Tokyo. In our third news, we keep an eye on Olympics 2022, but with a hot topic for Ukraine. Will Ukraine be deprived of the Olympic Games? According to a report from the World Anti-Doping Agency, Ukraine has been bending the rules for many years. Operation Hercules. This is the name of the investigation conducted by the World Anti-Doping Agency, since 2019, against the Ukrainian authorities, accused of having installed a system to avoid doping controls. A practice, still according to WADA, which would have started in 2012 and affected many sports disciplines. Operation Hercules has raised serious suspicions about the integrity of the anti-doping testing practices of the NADC, the Ukrainian Anti-Doping Authority, about its competence and about certain members of its staff. Moreover, the duration and the apparent effrontery of these practices suggest dysfunctions in the organization of the NADC. Operation Hercules has corroborated and convincing evidence that the NADC was engaging in phone calls or contacting athletes through their coaches to request their presence at their premises for testing the next day. These shocking statements are signed by Gunter Junger, director of this investigation within the AMA. Thus, the Ukrainian National Agency presented for some of its athletes tests, according to them, carried out in period of competition, whereas they had, in truth, carried out before. WADA should provide more details on these practices in the coming weeks. And if this whole affair is confirmed, Ukraine, as a whole, could be banned from participating in the 2022 Beijing Olympics. Now on our third news, we have the biathlete Timothy Lopshin claiming his innocence after his suspension for doping. Sentenced to a 1-year suspension for breaking anti-doping rules in the fall of 2020, South Korean Timothy Lopshin will return to competition this winter. He always claims his innocence. Suspended in September 2020 for violating anti-doping rules, the South Korean biathlete of Russian origin, Timothy Lopshin, has been able to return to competition for a few weeks now, like Ekaterina Glazerina. At Match TV, the native of Krasnoyarsk, Russia, explained how he took rhinofluomucil, a substance prohibited in competition. In 2013, before an Ibu Cup, I got sick, he says. On the plane when taking off, I was in terrible pain. I asked the doctor for drops and he gave me rhinofluomucil. Prohibited during the competition period, which begins 12 hours before the start of the race, the doctor warned me that I will have to indicate on the protocol that taking rhinofluomucil. As I finished second in the sprint, I had a doping control. Tested positive following this test, he was therefore suspended for 1 year. It was not done to improve my performance, it was just to treat me urgently, always proclaims the one who will return to the World Cup circuit in a month in Östersund, Sweden. Now we turn our heads to the cross-country ski queen, Therese Johaug, skipping the Tour de Ski. The best cross-country skier in the world will not participate in the next Tour de Ski, as she has chosen to bet everything on the Beijing Olympics. The 32-year-old Norwegian doesn't want to hear about the Tour de Ski, even in a shortened format like the one that will be held in early January 2022. My only priority is the Beijing Olympics and I will do everything to get to the top of my form in February. Instead of the tour, I will do a 2-week training camp at altitude. This until December 26th, then I will spend 2 weeks at home and have New Year's Eve with my loved ones. Besides, I couldn't see myself celebrating the new year by being abroad, she said today. Her absence, let's see the positive side, will open, like last year, the game and we will undoubtedly have a very nice women's tour with several candidates for the win. Now we talk about Heide Weng and her travel problems. She is one of the national team's most home-loving people, but this season Heide Weng will probably travel more than ever before. She simply has no other choice. For one of the national team's biggest medal candidates for this year's Olympics in Beijing, she has already been alone on an altitude training camp this summer. Then together with the national team in August and September. And for the third time, she has now taken place in the altitude in Livigno and from Wednesday in Val Sanales in northern Italy. But it does not stop there. This is my biggest challenge, as it has always been, even though I am now 30 years old and no longer young and promising. Then being away for a long time is like a problem I have always had, Weng says to NRK while she smiles bravely. Now I do not have much choice, she says. She also swears by good preparations at the altitude of this year's Tour de Ski. Then a long so-called pre-camp, or preparations for the Olympics in Beijing awaits with another altitude camp. Finally what everyone has been waiting for, almost a month in China to hunt for medals. Weng says that she has opted out of many high-altitude days in recent seasons to feel more obvious for example, championships. But now I do not have much choice, so then I just have to try. Then, says Weng, knowing that the Olympics in China run at a meager 1,800 meters altitude. She believes it is important that she makes long and good preparations under such conditions. For Weng, the problems with being away from Norway are that she is home-loving, likes her routines and has the supporters close, she dislikes surprises and unexpected events. She struggled to travel when the corona pandemic set restrictions and rules during competition abroad last season. She has received help from a psychologist and now she has found a key to dealing with the unknown and fear, namely with the help of breathing techniques. She downloaded an application on the phone that you have to follow the rhythm of your breath. It may sound strange, but I really relaxed and could listen to it for 5 minutes here and there. Then I found that rhythm and became confident. She is also quite sensitive to sound. In this way, new destinations can be extra challenging. But she tries, among other things by using a lot of earplugs and handling it as best she can. I kind of try to get better, but have not become. So I'm not really suited to being a cross-country skier and being away a lot. National team coach Ole Morten Iversen is impressed with the skier and the choices she now makes. He believes Weng's choices through the season preparations and when the snow falls, even though she does not like to travel, is about how conscious she is. It tells me that she has clear thoughts about how she will prepare for an Olympic season. Especially she and Therese, they have been through this many times before. Preparing for the championship and touring form, it is about having a plan you have faith in and that she believes benefits her best, says Iversen. Then there's the Olympics in Beijing, then, far away from Norway. Weng is prepared for strict restrictions during the games and in the athletes' village, and conditions that are far from what she is used to. I feel I should be extremely much better and be prepared for the fact that you have to spend a very long time and a whole day being at an airport, and rather think that it takes a little longer than normal. I think I just have to adjust to it and rather just be as well prepared as possible for exactly those things there so you do not get annoyed, says Heide Weng. And that's all for today, folks. Stay tuned and subscribe to our channels on YouTube, Spotify and Instagram. Just type Nordic Sports News on these platforms and access our content. Thank you so much and see you tomorrow in the next episode. Information credits for AP, Nordic Mag, Ski Nordique, XCski.de, Fondo Italia, Match TV, NRK and SVT.